Well, joining me now to look at the fallout from the debate and the last 10 days of the Alberta election campaign is freelance journalist and veteran political observer Graham Thomson. Graham Thomson, thanks for joining us again.
Oh, you're welcome.
Now, I know you spoke with my colleague Peter Van Dusen the day before the debates on Wednesday. Let's, weigh in. What did you make of the debate? And I know it's a perennial question, but were there any winners or losers?
Yeah, this is, the thing is, we got spoiled last time. 2015, the debate is on, and Notley emerged as a clear winner. She was the leader of a 4-member NDP party against Jim Prentice, a PC conservative, of course, premier. 44 years of conservative governments, and all of a sudden he got tripped up in that debate. That debate solidified things for Notley in 2015, so we got really spoiled. There was no knockout punch last night, no clear winner. It's like so many debates we have, generally speaking, in politics. Nobody goes in as the winner, perhaps, and comes out as the winner. It's kind of a wash. I think nothing really changed. We think, according to the polls, Jason Kenney is in front with the UCP, and Notley is trailing, and nothing seemed really changed that last night.
Several of us watching here felt that several of the leaders seemed to be very cautious, almost walking on eggshells. Premier Notley, for example, who, as you mentioned in the last debate, was very fiery, this time seemed to be reading from her notes a lot, being very careful.
Yeah, I think it's because she is the premier. It's a lot easier to attack when you're in the opposition. And it was interesting last night, in a sense, they changed positions. Like Notley, of course, is the premier, and she's in government, but it was Kenney who took a lot of the beatings last night. And the thing about Notley is she can't come across as too negative. People like her. She's much more popular than the NDP. And people like her. So her problem is if she goes too negative, then it starts turning people off. They like seeing her as being combative, but not too combative. Like seeing her as being, feisty against, other leaders, but don't go overboard. So she had to do this measured approach. They didn't think they were going to win this, but they didn't think they're going to lose it. I think for the NDP, getting in there and getting out and having a wash was fine. Last time around, Notley did really well against Jim Prentice. I think the NDP knew going in against Jason Kenney, he is very polished, very practiced. Heck, last week he took a day off the campaign last Friday to start preparing for the debate. So he is very well prepared. He was very well prepared. It's hard to knock him off his stride. So I think Notley knew she couldn't just hammer away at Kenney. She tried at times. Others all tried to take shots at him. It's very hard to pin down because he's been around politics for so long.
Okay, one of the questions is, you mentioned Rachel Notley, but also the other two leaders involved in the debate. All three of them repeatedly raised the issue of the controversy concerning funding of a so-called Camicazi candidate to help Jason Kenney win the United Conservative leadership race. Do you think that had any resonance? This is swirling around the election campaign, and in fact, there's an RCMP investigation ongoing about this.
Yeah, this is the thing right now. There's been no conclusion. There's been people fined in that leadership campaign who were with Jeff Callaway's campaign. Of course, he was one of the people in the leadership race, and the allegations. And it seems pretty clear that the Kenney campaign and the Callaway campaign were helping each other out to take down Brian Jean in that leadership race. The thing is, there's been no conclusion. There's been no conclusion from the RCMP. Nobody's been charged. Kenney says he did nothing wrong. That he was just in the race to win, and he won. The thing about this is it's a couple of years old, and people are really, I think, more focused on the economy, jobs, and the pipeline. There's no pipeline in the ground, no new pipeline. They're worried about the jobs. We're into maybe another recession. Things are slowing down a bit in Alberta. So people are really concerned about that, not so much the 2017 leadership campaign. So you've got Notley trying to hammer at that, others trying to hammer away at that. And the problem is, if they go too hard, it starts to make Kenney look like the victim. Mm-hmm. And this is a problem for them. And Kenney, it's all about the economy, and right now the big issue in Alberta politics is the economy.
Well, okay, and we're going to get to that in a second, but the other issue that all three of the other candidates tried to pin onto Jason Kenney was an issue which has caused damage in the past, especially to the Wild Rose Party, and that is candidates making allegedly homophobic, misogynist, or intolerant attitudes, and this one especially referencing Mark Smith and his comments. That came up in the debate. Did that do any damage to Mr. Kenney, or did he manage to parry those blows?
We'll have to see, the polls, you get conflicting polls. We got polls showing over the last year a trend for the UCP well ahead of the NDP. A couple of polls in the weekend showing us a lot narrower, that the NDP is nipping at the heels of the UCP. And another poll came out a few days ago saying that the UCP is still far ahead. And the thing about this is that it's hard to actually gauge what's actually happening right now. But last night they did take shots at Kenny, socially conservative, and they're not just alleged. These are actually outright homophobic comments. Some of the people have been saying in the UCP, anti-Islamic comments. He lost two candidates in the first 2 weeks of the campaign because of their social media postings. But the whole strategy has changed somewhat. A year ago, UCP was very defensive about this. Even a few months ago, they're apologizing for this. There's no more apologies. They're just pushing through this campaign, saying that this is a smear and fear campaign from the NDP, and even with Mark Smith, the critic for education for the UCP, these comments are 6 years old, and Kenny is saying, look, he's apologized for this. Let's move on from here. He's hoping he can turn the page. He's hoping Albertans are turning the page too. And the thing is, you go back to 2012 when you had these so-called bozo eruptions that helped sink the Wild Rose campaign. We've had probably 20 bozo eruptions for the UCP, and it doesn't seem to have changed anything. People seem to be getting used to it, or they're ignoring it, or thinking, look, basically, we're worried about the economy. That's the main thing. And Kenny, he's apologized before. Let's just get on with the election campaign. So the thing is, right now, we don't really know what's actually happening behind the scenes in terms of, is this changing the public's point of view? Because we've got conflicting polls now. Some saying, yes, the NDP is nipping at the heels of the UCP. Another poll came out more recently saying, no, the UCP is still far out in front. So you can pick and choose your poll to determine what you think is actually happening right now in the campaign.
So I guess the last question is, given that ambiguity and given that you don't know how far the UCP might be ahead or how close a race it might be, will the overriding ballot box question, if you want to call it that, be the economy and the hard times?
Yeah, I think this is what Kenny is certainly making it. And this is a much more natural issue for Albertans to understand. We've gone through a recession. Things are slowing down again. There's no new pipeline in the ground to get our oil to overseas, to get more money in the Treasury. That's the big issue. And Notley's trying to bring up leadership, because the thing is right now, people like Notley. And so that's a big plus for them. So they're trying to use Kenny as a foil. People don't tend to like Kenny. They tend to like Notley. So they're trying to say in the NDP campaign that Notley's much more likable, a better leader, more progressive. But the big issue still seems to be the economy and pipelines and jobs. And that's where Kenny seems to be doing a lot better than the NDP.
Okay, Graham Thomson, as always, a pleasure. We have about a week and a half to go. Thanks very much for giving us your input.
You're very welcome.